The lawyer's office was one of those places that smelled like old books and furniture polish, with dark wood paneling and leather chairs that creaked when you sat in them. I was perched on the edge of mine, hands folded in my lap, trying to make myself as small and invisible as I'd spent most of my life being. My sister Natalie sat across from me, perfectly composed in her designer dress, her manicured nails drumming impatiently on the armrest. My mother sat between us, tissue already in hand, though Grandma Rose had been gone for 3 weeks and Mom had seemed more concerned with the funeral arrangements looking impressive than actually grieving. My name is Emma Harrison. I'm 29 years old, and I was about to attend the reading of my grandmother's will. I wasn't expecting much. I never did when it came to family matters. But what happened in that lawyer's office that Tuesday afternoon would change everything I thought I knew about my grandmother, my family, and my place in both. The lawyer, Mr. Peterson, was an elderly man who'd apparently handled my grandmother's legal affairs for over 30 years. He settled his reading glasses on his nose and opened the thick folder in front of him with the kind of reverence usually reserved for ancient religious texts. "Thank you all for coming," he said in that formal way lawyers have. "I know this is a difficult time." Rose was a remarkable woman, and she was very particular about how she wanted her estate handled. My mother dabbed at her eyes. Natalie checked her phone. I just sat there, waiting for it to be over so I could go home to my tiny apartment and my cat and pretend this day hadn't happened. "The estate itself is relatively straightforward," Mr. Peterson continued. "The house and its contents will be sold, with the proceeds divided equally between Rose's daughter Patricia," he nodded at my mother, "and her granddaughters Natalie and Emma." I blinked. That was, actually fair. More than fair. I'd expected Mom to get everything and maybe Natalie and I would split whatever was left after she took what she wanted. "However," Mr. Peterson said, and that word hung in the air like a bell that had just been rung, "there are some specific bequests that Rose wanted to address individually." Here it comes, I thought. The part where Natalie gets the jewelry, the family heirlooms, all the things that actually mattered. And I'd get Grandma's old recipe box or something equally sentimental but ultimately worthless. "To my daughter Patricia," Mr. Peterson read, "I leave my pearl necklace, the one given to me by my mother, and my hope that she will remember that elegance is not just about appearance, but about how we treat those who can do nothing for us." My mother's smile faltered slightly at that last part, but she nodded graciously. "To my granddaughter Natalie," Mr. Peterson continued, and Natalie sat up straighter, "I leave my diamond engagement ring, the one your grandfather gave me in 1965. It's worth approximately $40,000 and has been in our family for nearly 60 years. Natalie's face lit up. Of course it did. That ring had been the crown jewel of Grandma's jewelry collection. Every family gathering, Natalie had made a point of admiring it, talking about how it would look perfect on her hand, how she'd have it reset in a more modern style. Grandma had always just smiled and said, "We'll see." Well, now we were seeing. Natalie had one, as she always did. "To my granddaughter Emma," Mr. Peterson read, and I prepared myself for something small and thoughtful that would somehow emphasize how I was loved but not quite as much. "I leave my mother's china cabinet, my collection of first-edition books, and my car." I sat up straighter. The china cabinet was beautiful, an antique worth several $1,000s. The book collection was substantial. And the car, a well-maintained vintage Mercedes, was worth at least as much as Natalie's ring, maybe more. "What?" Natalie said, her voice sharp. "The Mercedes?" "But Grandma promised me I could have the Mercedes." "She did no such thing," my mother said quickly, though her eyes were on the lawyer with a look that said she was recalculating everything. Mr. Peterson cleared his throat. "There's more. Rose was quite specific about her reasoning for these bequests, and she asked that I read her personal letters to each of you." He pulled out 3 envelopes. Handed one to my mother, one to Natalie, and one to me. My mother opened hers immediately, read it quickly, and her face went pale. Natalie tore into hers with less grace, and I watched as her expression progressed from confusion to disbelief to outrage. I opened mine slowly, carefully, the way I did everything. Inside was Grandma Rose's distinctive handwriting, slightly shaky from age but still elegant. My dearest Emma, it read. If you're reading this, I'm gone, and I hope you know how much I loved you. I'm writing these letters because I want you all to understand my decisions, not just accept them. Emma, you were always the one who visited without being asked. Who called just to talk, not just when you needed something. Who remembered my birthday even when everyone else forgot. Who sat with me in the hospital last year when I had pneumonia, even though you had to take time off from work you couldn't afford to miss. Who listened to my stories even when you'd heard them a dozen times before. You never asked me for anything. You never positioned yourself to inherit. You just loved me, simply and completely. That's rare, sweetheart. Don't ever think it went unnoticed. The things I've left you are things I think you'll treasure, not because of their monetary value, but because they meant something to me and I know they'll mean something to you too. Use the car. Drive somewhere beautiful. Read the books. Display the china and think of me when you do. You deserve to be seen, Emma. I'm sorry it took me leaving for you to understand how much I saw you. All my love, Grandma Rose. The tears came before I could stop them. Real tears, the kind that came from a place so deep I hadn't even known it existed. Because Grandma had seen me. Had noticed. Had valued the quiet love I'd given her, not because I expected anything in return, but because she was my grandmother and I loved her. This is ridiculous, Natalie said, waving her letter. She's basically calling me selfish. Just because I have a busy life and couldn't visit as much. Natalie, my mother said sharply. Not now. Not now? When, then? When Emma's driven off in the car that should have been mine? When she's sold the books I wanted? This isn't fair. Actually, Mr. Peterson said, his voice cutting through Natalie's tantrum, we're not quite finished. There is one more provision regarding the ring. The room went silent. Natalie clutched her letter like it might fly away. As I mentioned, the ring is bequeathed to Natalie, Mr. Peterson continued, pulling out another document. However, there is a conditional clause attached to this bequest. Rose was very specific about this. He adjusted his glasses and began to read. The diamond ring is to go to Natalie, provided that within 1 year of my death, she fulfills the following condition: she must provide proof that she has maintained a relationship with her sister Emma, including but not limited to monthly contact, attendance at significant family events together, and genuine effort towards sisterhood. This proof must be verified by Emma herself. If this condition is not met, or if Emma indicates that Natalie has not made genuine effort, the ring will pass to Emma instead. The silence that followed was deafening. What? Natalie's voice was a shriek. That's insane. You can't put conditions on an inheritance like that. Actually, Mr. Peterson said mildly, you can. It's perfectly legal as long as the conditions aren't illegal or impossible to fulfill. Rose was very clear about this. She wanted to ensure that her death didn't drive a wedge between her granddaughters, but rather brought them together. But that means Emma controls whether I get the ring. Natalie protested. Yes, Mr. Peterson said. That's exactly what it means. Rose felt that Emma had earned the right to make that judgment. I couldn't speak. Couldn't move. I just stared at the lawyer, then at my sister, then at the letter still clutched in my hand. Grandma had given me power. Real power. Not just things, not just money, but the ability to determine whether Natalie got what she wanted most. And the only way Natalie would get it was if she did something she'd never done before, treat me like I mattered. Before I tell you what happened next, I need you to do something for me. If this story is speaking to you, if you've ever been the overlooked one in your family, if you've ever given love without expecting anything in return only to feel invisible, hit that subscribe button. Leave a like if you want to know how this ends. And comment below, have you ever been the forgotten family member? How did it feel to finally be seen? I read every comment. Now, let me tell you what happened next. This is emotional manipulation, Natalie said, standing up. She's manipulating us from beyond the grave. She's ensuring her granddaughters have a relationship, my mother said quietly, and I was surprised to hear a note of what might have been approval in her voice. That's not manipulation. That's, actually quite clever. Clever? Natalie whirled on our mother. You think this is clever? She's forcing me to pretend to care about Emma for a year just to get what should have been mine anyway. Pretend to care? I said, and I was surprised by how steady my voice was. Is that really what you think this is about? What else would it be about? Natalie snapped. You heard the condition. I have to play nice with you for a year, get your stamp of approval, and then I get the ring. It's a game. It's not a game, I said. It's Grandma wanting us to be sisters. Actual sisters. Not just people who share DNA and show up to the same holiday dinners. We are sisters, Natalie said, but her voice lacked conviction. Are we? I asked. When's the last time you called me just to talk? When's the last time you asked how I was doing and actually listened to the answer? When's the last time you treated me like someone who mattered to you, not just someone who was inconveniently related to you? Natalie opened her mouth, then closed it. She couldn't answer because the answer was never. Or if there had been a time, it was so long ago neither of us could remember it. The condition stands, Mr. Peterson said firmly. Rose was of sound mind when she drafted this will, and she was adamant about this provision. Natalie, you have 1 year from today to fulfill the condition. Emma, you have the power to verify whether genuine effort has been made. I'd suggest you both take some time to think about what that means. The meeting ended shortly after. Papers were signed, copies were distributed, and we all filed out into the bright afternoon sunshine that felt wrong given the weight of what had just happened. My mother pulled me aside in the parking lot. Emma, she said, and there was something in her voice I'd rarely heard, uncertainty. Your grandmother's letter to me, it wasn't kind. Oh? I said, not sure where this was going. She called me out. For favoring Natalie. For not seeing what you've sacrificed, how you've always been there without asking for recognition. Mom's eyes were red. She was right. I did favor Natalie. She was easier, louder, more demanding, more like me. You were quiet, self-sufficient. I told myself you didn't need me as much. But that wasn't true. I just didn't make the effort. I didn't know what to say. This was the most honest my mother had been with me in, maybe ever. I can't change the past, Mom continued. But I'd like to do better going forward. If you'll let me. I'd like that, I said, and I meant it. Natalie stormed past us to her BMW without a word. She peeled out of the parking lot like she was being chased. The next few weeks were silent. Natalie didn't call, didn't text, didn't reach out. I wasn't surprised. In her mind, she was probably waiting for me to come crawling to her, to beg her to fulfill the condition so she could feel magnanimous about giving me the relationship Grandma wanted us to have. But I didn't call. Because Grandma's condition wasn't about me begging for Natalie's attention. It was about Natalie choosing to value me without being forced. A month passed. Then 2. I moved Grandma's china cabinet into my apartment. Started reading through her book collection, first editions of classics, many with her notes in the margins. Drove the Mercedes on weekends, feeling both grateful and sad every time I turned the key. My mother started calling weekly. Real calls, not just quick check-ins. We had lunch twice. She asked about my life, my job at the library, my friends. She listened. It was awkward at first, decades of distance don't disappear overnight, but it was genuine. 3 months after the will reading, Natalie finally called. Emma, she said, and her voice was stiff. I think we should have lunch. To talk. Okay, I said. When? Friday? There's a new place downtown that's supposed to be good. We met at the restaurant. Natalie showed up 15 minutes late, which was normal for her. She ordered a salad and spent the first 10 minutes talking about her job, her boyfriend, her upcoming vacation. Also normal. Then she paused, took a breath, and said, "So. The ring." "Right," I said. "The ring. I need you to verify that I'm making an effort," she said bluntly. "That's the condition, right? So what do I need to do? Monthly lunches like this? Birthday cards? What's the minimum requirement?" And there it was. The minimum requirement. The least she could do to get what she wanted. "Natalie," I said slowly, "do you actually want a relationship with me? Or do you just want the ring?" "Does it matter?" she asked. "The result is the same. We spend time together, you verify to the lawyer that I've fulfilled the condition, I get the ring. Everyone's happy. Except I wouldn't be happy," I said. "Because I'd know it was fake. That you were just going through the motions. And Grandma would have known that too. That's not what she wanted." "What did she want then?" Natalie asked, frustrated. "For me to magically become a different person? To suddenly care about your boring library job and your cat and your quiet little life?" The words stung, but I'd expected them. This was who Natalie was. Who she'd always been. "She wanted you to see me as a person," I said quietly. "As your sister. Not as an inconvenience or an obligation or a hurdle between you and something you want. Just as someone worth knowing." "I do know you," Natalie protested. "Do you?" I asked. "What's my favorite book? What am I afraid of? What makes me happy? When was the last time I was really hurt, and what hurt me? What do I dream about?" Natalie stared at me. She couldn't answer any of it. "You don't know me," I said. "And you've never wanted to. And that's fine, we can't force these things. But don't pretend you're fulfilling Grandma's condition when all you're doing is checking boxes." "So what are you saying?" Natalie asked. "That I'm never getting the ring? That you're just going to keep it out of spite?" "I'm saying that whether you get the ring depends on whether you actually try," I said. "Really try. Not perform effort, but actually make an effort to be my sister. And I don't know if you're capable of that. I don't even know if you want to be capable of it." I stood up, put money on the table for my coffee. "When you figure out if you actually want a sister or just want a ring, call me. But not before." I walked out, and I felt something I hadn't felt in that restaurant, powerful. Clear. Certain. The months continued to pass. My mother and I grew closer. She helped me move to a bigger apartment. She told me stories about Grandma Rose I'd never heard. She apologized more than once for the years of overlooking me. "I see you now," she said one day over coffee. "I'm sorry it took so long." Natalie didn't call for 4 months. When she finally did, it was 2 a.m. and she was crying. "Emma," she sobbed when I answered. Can I come over?" "Now?" I asked, foggy with sleep. "Please." She showed up 20 minutes later, mascara running, still in a cocktail dress from whatever event she'd been at. I made tea while she composed herself on my couch. "Jake and I broke up," she finally said. Jake was the boyfriend she'd been with for 2 years, the one she'd been planning a future with. "I'm sorry," I said, and I meant it. "He said I was selfish," she continued. "That I only ever thought about myself. That I never made space for anyone else's feelings or needs. That he felt like an accessory in my life, not a partner." She looked up at me with red, swollen eyes. And I realized he was right. And I realized that's exactly what you were trying to tell me. That I treat people like they exist to serve my purposes. That I never actually see them as real people with their own lives and feelings. I sat down next to her, said nothing. Let her talk. "I've been thinking about what you asked me," she said. "About what I know about you. And the answer is nothing. I know nothing. Because I've never asked. Never cared to ask. And I didn't even realize how messed up that was until Jake spelled it out for me." "Natalie," I started. "No, let me finish," she said. I'm not here because I want the ring. I mean, I do want the ring. But I'm here because I'm tired. I'm tired of being the person who only shows up when I want something. I'm tired of relationships that are all surface and no substance. I'm tired of being so alone even when I'm surrounded by people. She wiped her eyes. I don't know how to be a good sister. I don't think I've ever really been one. But I'd like to learn. If you're willing to teach me. And there was the question. Was I willing? To open myself up to Natalie, knowing she might hurt me again? To trust that this breakdown was real and not just another performance? I thought about what Grandma Rose would say. About grace, and second chances, and the difference between enabling someone's worst behavior and giving them space to become better. Okay, I said. But this is how it works, you don't get to do this halfway. You don't get to try for a few weeks and then go back to how things were. If we're doing this, we're really doing it. Real conversations. Real time. Real effort. What if I mess up? She asked. You will mess up, I said. We both will. But we keep trying anyway. She nodded. Okay. Okay. So, where do we start? We start with you telling me what's actually going on in your life. Not the highlight reel. The real stuff. And then I'll tell you about mine. And we go from there. So we did. We talked for 3 hours that night. About her breakup, her job stress, her fear that she was becoming our mother without any of Mom's redeeming qualities. About my loneliness, my struggles with feeling invisible, my dreams of maybe writing a book someday. It was awkward. It was uncomfortable. There were long pauses and false starts. But it was real. More real than any conversation we'd had in years, maybe ever. After that night, Natalie started showing up. Really showing up. She came to my apartment for dinner. She called when something good happened at work, not to brag, but to share. She remembered my birthday, not with an expensive present, but with a homemade cake because she remembered me mentioning I missed Grandma's baking. She asked questions about my life and listened to the answers. She invited me to things, then didn't get upset when I said no because I was an introvert and sometimes I needed to be alone. She started understanding that we were different people, and that was okay, and we could still be sisters. Was it perfect? No. There were backslides. Times when she'd fall into old patterns of making everything about her, times when I'd get defensive and shut down. But we kept trying. We kept talking. We kept showing up. 6 months after that late-night conversation, we were having lunch, our 4th that month, when Natalie said, I don't care about the ring anymore. I looked up from my sandwich. What? The ring, she said. I don't care if I get it. I mean, it would be nice, obviously. But it's not why I'm here. It's not why I've been trying. I like having a sister. I like knowing you. I like this. And I realized she meant it. The desperation that had driven that first lunch was gone. She wasn't performing anymore. She was just being my sister. I like this too, I said. The year was almost up when Mr. Peterson called and asked if we could come to his office for a follow-up meeting. Both Natalie and I showed up, this time arriving together because we'd been at Mom's house for dinner the night before and decided to drive together. Mr. Peterson looked older than I remembered, but he smiled when he saw us walk in together. Emma, Natalie. Thank you for coming. Emma, I need to ask you officially, has Natalie fulfilled the condition of Rose's will? I looked at my sister. Thought about the past year. The lunches and phone calls and late-night conversations. The way she'd shown up at the library with coffee when I was having a bad day. The way she'd helped me move, actually helped, not just showed up for 5 minutes and left. The way she'd told me, honestly, that she was grateful I'd forced her to actually try. Yes, I said. She has. Mr. Peterson nodded and pulled out a small velvet box. Then, Natalie, this is yours. He handed her the ring. Grandma's ring. The one that had started all of this. Natalie opened the box slowly, looked at the ring, then looked at me. "Emma," she said, "I want you to have it." I blinked. "What?" "I want you to have the ring," she repeated. "Or we could split it, sell it and split the money. Or whatever you want. Because the truth is, this ring was never really about the ring. It was about Grandma teaching me something I needed to learn. And you helped me learn it. So it feels wrong for me to keep it when you're the one who actually deserved it all along." "Natalie, no," I said. "Grandma wanted you to have it. You earned it." "We both earned it," she said. "But you earned it long before this condition ever existed." We went back and forth like that for a while, each insisting the other should have the ring, until Mr. Peterson cleared his throat. "Ladies," he said, "I think Rose would be very pleased to see you arguing over who gets to be more generous. For what it's worth, she left me a sealed letter to be opened only if the condition was fulfilled. She asked me to read it to you both if this day came." He pulled out another envelope, how many had Grandma written, and opened it carefully. "My dear girls," he read in Grandma's words. "If you're hearing this, it means you did it. You became sisters. Real sisters. Not just people related by blood, but people who chose each other. That was always the real inheritance I wanted to leave you. Not money or jewels or things, but each other. The ring itself doesn't matter. What matters is that you both understand now what I understood. Love isn't something that happens to you. It's something you do, every day, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Emma, you always knew this. Natalie, I knew you could learn it if given the right motivation. I'm proud of you both. The ring belongs to whichever one of you wants it. Or neither of you. Or both of you, get creative, I don't care. What I care about is that you have each other. That's the only thing that matters. That's the only thing that lasts. Love you both, always and forever. Grandma Rose." There wasn't a dry eye in that office. Even Mr. Peterson had to take off his glasses and wipe them. In the end, we decided together, we sold the ring and used the money to fund an annual scholarship at the library where I work, in Grandma Rose's name, for young women pursuing education later in life, something Grandma had always championed. It felt right. It felt like something she would have loved. Before I finish this story, I want to ask you one more thing. If you made it this far, if this story moved you at all, if you've ever felt overlooked or finally found your way to being seen, subscribe to this channel. Leave a like. And comment below, have you ever been the forgotten one who finally got recognized? Or are you the person who needs to do better at seeing someone? Share your story. Now let me finish this. That was 3 years ago. Today, Natalie and I talk almost every day. Not because we have to, but because we want to. We vacation together. We're godmothers to each other's eventual kids, neither of us has any yet, but we've already decided. We show up for each other in ways that matter. My mother and I have rebuilt our relationship too. She's not perfect, she still has moments where she defaults to old patterns, but she's trying. Really trying. And that's all I can ask. Sometimes I think about Grandma Rose and how she orchestrated all of this from beyond the grave. How she saw the broken places in our family and found a way to either heal them or expose them so clearly we couldn't ignore them anymore. The condition wasn't about the ring. It was never about the ring. It was about forcing us to decide, do we want to be a family, or do we just want to play one? And we chose. We chose each other. We chose the hard work of actually caring, actually showing up, actually being there. My name is Emma Harrison. I'm 32 years old. And for most of my life, I was the invisible granddaughter, the forgotten sister, the one who gave love without expecting anything back. But my grandmother saw me. Always saw me. And she left me the greatest gift she could, the power to change my family. Not through money or things, but through the simple requirement that we see each other as we actually are. And my sister, the one who'd never looked at me long enough to actually see me before, chose to finally look. And in doing so, she gave me something more valuable than any ring. She gave me a sister. That's what inheritance really means. Not the things we leave behind, but the love we insist continues after we're gone. Thank you, Grandma Rose. For seeing me. For seeing all of us. And for loving us enough to make us do better. Thank you for listening to my story. If it meant something to you, please subscribe to this channel, leave a like, and share your experience in the comments. Have you been the overlooked one? Have you learned to see someone you'd been blind to? Let's build a community of people who understand that being seen is one of the greatest gifts we can give each other. And remember, the best inheritance isn't things. It's the people who choose to love us, and whom we choose to love back. Every single day. Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. That's what lasts. That's what matters. That's what my grandmother knew all along.